Broadway's brightest live. Why spend Thursday nights drunk in a dive? They're friends with Rye, and he's a Broadway guy. He's your Broadway and entertainment BFF. It's Live with Rye and Friends on Broadway. He's a bundle of joy and happiness. He loves being here for you. He's a theater nerd who will share a word with a Broadway star or two. Our guests will have you on the floor like Orphe, Auntie, and many more. Rye Myers, the gay Ryan Seacrest, your Broadway and entertainment BFF. It's Live with Rye and Friends on Broadway.
Hello, friends. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another week of Live with Rye Friends on Broadway, the only Broadway talk show here in New York City. I'm Rye Myers, your host, your Broadway and Entertainment BFF. How's everyone doing? Woo! Well, thank you so much for coming out. Thanks, everyone at home, for tuning in. Thank you. As you heard that beautiful theme song, which I just love, I could listen to on repeat constantly. It is written by Jay Brancato, composed by the incredible Jeffrey Schmilkin, and sung by the one, the only, the incredibly talented, someone who I just adore, Alyssa Ray from American Idol, season 20, top 9. Just adore her. And now I want to talk to you all, about something very exciting. If you've been following the show, you know that this month is our 1-year anniversary of Live with Rye and Friends on Broadway. And to celebrate, I'm doing something big. If you follow me on social media, if you know me, I've been posting about it. Live with Rye and Friends on Broadway, Live with the Triad, the 1-year celebration is happening on September 26th. That's next Monday at the Triad Theater. And tickets are on sale now. You can come in person, which I really hope you will if you're in New York City, if you're in the New York area, or you can tune in virtually. Tickets are on sale by going to this. On the screen, you'll see a QR code, or on the bottom, you'll see the website scrolling, RyeMyers.com. You can go to RyeMyers.com/anniversary show. It'll get you the tickets for both. But it's going to be such a great night. The in-person event is going to be even cooler because I'll have surprise Broadway guests, big Broadway guests. There's going to be giveaways. My special guests are including Donnie Kerr, who is a Broadway legend. I'm sure if you know and love Broadway, you know Donnie. He's been in the original Broadway cast of Jersey Boys, The Who's Tommy, Billy Elliot, so much more. I feel like there's a big one I'm missing out, right? Who's Tommy? So many more. And then we have Rob Evan, who you have seen in Jekyll, the original Broadway cast of Jekyll and Hyde. He's been in Disney's Tarzan, Dance of the Vampires with Michael Crawford. And then I have Joshua Turchin, who we know, who is a child prodigy, who is a superstar. He does his podcasts here and is a viral TikToker. So I have him and Avery Reel, who will be performing and we'll be giving a little interview. Avery has been seen in School of Rock on Broadway. It's going to be a big night. You don't want to miss it. Tickets are on sale now. So I'm so excited to see you. As I said, on the screen, you can scan the QR code or visit RyeMyers.com, RyeMyers.com/anniversary show. I want to see you all there. If you can make it in person, I want to see you in person. If not, I want to see you on the live stream. It's going to be so much fun. I've been looking forward to it all year. And then there's another show on October 17th. But next Monday is right around the corner. So get your tickets now. They are on sale. As I said, go to the website, RyeMyers.com. Get them now. And I will see you there. And if you come in person, as I said, we're going to have some of the biggest giveaways yet. So cannot wait to see you. As always, I do Broadway news before each show. And this week I have a few things to talk about. Some big things as well. So if you've been living under a rock, you probably have not seen, but you should have, that Friday it was announced that, I can't believe I'm saying this, I would never thought I would have said this in my lifetime, I thought I would be dead by the time the show would be closing. Phantom of the Opera has announced that it will be closing after 35 years on Broadway on January 26th of 2023. It will celebrate 35 years at the Majestic Theater, and then it is slated to close on, I believe, February 16th, 2023. I'm devastated, I'm gutted. I did not think, all good things must come to an end. It'll be 35 years, but I did not think that after 35 years we would be seeing this. I was actually interviewed by the local news station, and I said to them, it just shows that Broadway isn't back. Because I went down to get a ticket, and newsflash for anyone trying to get a ticket, the anniversary show and the final performance are not on sale yet. They're not on sale until, they only have until January 21st on sale. So I went down to try to get a ticket, and the news was out there, because obviously this is major news, and I just said that, Broadway isn't back. We thought it was, and clearly, Phantom of the Opera, which relies so much on international tourism, is closing. It's such a staple to New York. But personally, I've said to a few friends, even though Phantom of the Opera is supposed to close, I don't think it's really going to close. I do think that perhaps this might be a little marketing thing, and I think we'll see that it closes, and that come the new year, or as things come about. Hi, folks. How are you? Welcome, welcome. This is the Broadway Talk Show, live with Rye Friends on Broadway. Just in my news segment, sit on down and you win some fun prizes. I did say that I do think that perhaps it's a marketing ploy that come in a few weeks. I think they'll announce that ticket sales will be through the roof and everything, and that they won't be closing. And I think they'll just kind of continue to extend, because the ticket sales have skyrocketed now that they've been closing. So that's my hunch, but maybe I'm wrong. I think they'll say oh, we're not closing. Sales will great, just keep extending. But who knows? There's been so many rumors. Mum's the word so far from Andrew and from anyone at Phantom. But needless to say, never thought I'd say that. And another staple is closing in 2 weeks. The Schubert Alley Theater store is going to be closing its doors for good on October 2nd. It's so sad. For those of you who love theater and love Broadway merchandise, this has been such an iconic store. It's part of the Theater Circle, which is on 44th Street, next to the St. James. They're closing the smaller store in Schubert Alley is closing their store for good on October 2nd. Another victim of this post-pandemic rut that Broadway is facing. Next week, though, so some happier news. Broadway Flea Market is next week. Get excited for the Broadway Flea Market. Have you ever been to the Broadway Flea Market? Are you going next week? Oh, okay. Well, they do have some online options, so check out their virtual things as well, because they've got some good things. I'm going to be going. I'm so excited. First time since 2019. For those of you who know, last year I was in Salem when they originally had planned the Broadway Flea Market, so I could not go. I'm very excited. It's going to be big. I will be there. Broadway Makers Marketplace will have a table, so come out and see the Broadway Makers Marketplace. You'll see me as well, and it's going to be a great day. It all goes to support, of course, Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. And finally, Into the Woods will be releasing its cast album virtually on September 30th. Then in December comes the physical copy. And then I think I read in January that February, the vinyl copy will be released. So for those of you who love vinyl, that's your time to shine. And with that, help me welcome my very special guests today. I'm so excited to have these two with me. They are incredible people in our industry. You just need to know both of them, and I'm so excited to have them here. Please help me welcome the incredible Isaac Bush and Auntie Miller. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Congratulations on 1 year.
Oh, thank you.
We're celebrating 1 year here of Broadway News in New York City.
It's crazy, isn't it? mean, to have the actual Broadway talk show in New York. Can you believe that there has never been a Broadway talk show in New York?
That's wild.
An actual official Broadway talk show, yeah.
I honestly can't believe that hasn't happened before. And so thank you for supporting Rye here, because what a wonderful thing that you're giving to the community. Please don't stop.
I thank you so much. Oh, I appreciate that. You know what, that means a lot to me, and I'm very much appreciated that. You know, I needed to hear that today, so thank you, my dear. I definitely won't stop, and you know, this is my love letter to the community, as I like to say. I'm happy to do it. So thank you for both of you for being here.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
So let's get started. You know, I will start with you. How did you get started in the performance space? And you know, did you grow up in a musical household? Was music part of your life? And then, Auntie, same for you. Did you grow up in a musical household? And you know, how did you get started? Tell us your story.
First of all, we're so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us, Ryan. Thank you for joining us here. My name is Isaac Bush, and I've been in the city now for about 13 years. And to try to make a very long story short, a 5'10" Midwest white boy coming to New York City found himself with about 10 million others who looked and sound exactly like myself, but with a really good undergraduate education from Hope College in Michigan. What I came to sort of find is I had more to say than my casting type, and I wanted to tell more stories. So I began a thesis project that turned into a production company that is now a venue in Williamsburg called the Brooklyn Art House. This is a new home for new innovative work in New York City. It will open in January 2023, and we're just so excited to be able to have this opportunity to talk more about it.
I can't wait to talk more about it for sure. And you all have to definitely keep your ears peeled and eyes peeled for this, because it's exciting. And for those of you who are like fancy fun things, it's spelled Haus, H-A-U-S, the House of Gaga and House of
Very
Gaga,
international we are.
It's very fancy. So. And for you, Auntie?
So, the question was, did I come from a musical household?
Yes, how did your musical performance, begin? Did you grow up in a musical household? Did you, take theater through school? How did the musical mentality begin?
So, it's funny because actually my family was not musical at all. I came from a pretty working class family in upstate New York, but the way that I got involved in music is kind of odd. I got my first allowance when I was 5, and I went to Walmart and I bought the first CDs I found, and it was the best of Beethoven and piano classics. It was like the closest CDs to the floor, and then it was a slippery slope from there. It was all downhill, my most expensive habit.
Not a bad habit to have.
No, truly.
I love authentically you, Auntie. And this is why we keep doing it together.
But I got involved in, I did theater sort of casually in high school, but then when I went to college, I started doing theater, and then I went to theater school. After music school, I went to Circle in the Square, and then shortly thereafter, I got a call. I had been day drinking around Washington Square, and I got a call from this.
As one does every other day.
And I got a call from this gentleman named Isaac Bush asking me if I wanted to write. This was the mountain. So imagine the story of the Tower of Babel and the myth of Sisyphus sort of mixed together. It was, Isaac won a New York Innovative Theater Award for it, for Best Choreography, and I was nominated for Best Theater. And like my music career, there was a slippery slope from there. That was almost 10 years ago, 2013 and 14.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, well, what an exciting career you all have had and continue to have, and how you an exciting start as well. I mean, that is really incredible. And look, 10 years later, you both are still friends.
Somehow we still like each other.
Still like each other. And Isaac,
Within it all.
you've had a very exciting education career too, because you got an MA, if I'm correct, an MA, right, or MFA from Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, right, in London, with such a prestigious school, to study there. I mean, that must have been so incredible for you. What was that like? I mean, London is home to Shakespeare and all that, and England, and so to be sort of immersed in that true, I feel like, authentic roots of where I don't want to say the theater began, but where that sort of originality started with Shakespeare and everything that we know of the roots of theater today. What was it like to be able to study there?
London holds and Broadway showcases a lot of incredible London productions that come from the National Theatre, the West End, and many others, including a theatre that's very near and dear to me, the Young Vic.
Yes.
So what RADA, like many of the schools in London, have are these very useful MA programs for those who want to continue their education, build more skills, but for RADA, they have a theater lab, which is essentially a program for people who are devising and creating new work. And I knew that, having, made my way through the New York industry for several years, I decided that it's what I needed to do, is to create new work. And that's the thing that I think that everyone needs to consider in New York City and abroad, is do new work, create new work. And so our work as a devising company in New York City began gaining some traction, finding some success, but I didn't think I was smart enough to keep it going. As a freelancer and as a freelancing company, it can be very challenging to find support, both in the audience space, but also financially, if you're not putting something out on a regular basis. And so well done you for coming to a year now.
Thank you.
Getting the work done.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. It's not easy. Yes, come join the fun. Come sit in the audience for this exciting Broadway talk show. Let's look around at the Broadway Makers Marketplace. It's not easy, but the new work is what's important. And I feel like we're seeing a lot more new work today. I feel like it is easy, but maybe not as much as it should, but I'm seeing an influx of it. And on that topic of new work, what would you say, or what would your advice be to those, both on the creative end who want to create the new work, but also those who are going to be taking it on to help produce, being on a regional level or a community level, sort of that fear of new work? I mean, there are people who are scared to put themselves out there, and scared that, this is something so new or personal or intimate. So, and then on the sort of, I don't say the business end, but on the producing end of it, people are like, well, it's new, and how am I going to, react? So, for both of you, what is your sort of thoughts then? Because you've done so much new work and so much exciting experimental. Would you say then for that? Like, what would the advice be?
Do we have 5 hours? Because I guess I believe that it's important for everyone to feel that they have a unique voice unto themselves. And where our education system sort of lends itself to, and where a lot of the industry lends itself to, is everyone being put into a lane. And I think that can be very confining in the industry, but also in every industry. Is being put into a lane, having a label put onto you, and fitting inside of a box. And I realized that I'm not someone who fits easily into any one thing. I found myself apologizing more often than not, saying, I'm sorry for being an actor and a director and a producer, but I'm a creator, this is the thing that I do. And so I've started just calling myself an artist, because that's a nice broad stroke to be able to sort of, I guess, subscribe to the thing that we do. But I guess I would say, on the political and economic front, in my opinion, we do a terrible job of funding the arts in America.
Yes.
And it makes me very sad that as there are so many in our industry that can't even afford a Broadway ticket to be able to go. And there are many nonprofits that have shows on Broadway and are still charging $500 tickets to be able to access that show. So what we are trying to do in our small way with Brooklyn Art House is to take a dimensional look at how we can solve some of these issues that confront our community. Issues of financial support, of education, and logistical support, where you don't have to just sort of put in an application and hope that you're one of 16 to be able to get it. We are creating a social environment that I wish we had in New York for our artistic community, to be able to have a fully versatile performance space of about 100, affordable rehearsal studios, a lounge, a big gallery, a full bar, kitchen, open from 7 a.m. and closing at 2 a.m. so that
Wow.
this can be an incubation hub for our community. It's a love letter to our community.
It's the new hotspot where we're all going to be hanging out. I mean,
That's right.
Forget the gay bars. Everybody's going to go into and hang out at the house. It's going to be open practically half the time the bars are. So.
Well, it'll have a 40-inch disco ball as well. So
Amazing. Amazing. Anything to add to that?
You mean for like advice for
Yes,
for
with new work.
I think one of the things that I think I take for granted being like a classical musician is that you have regular practice, and you realize that when you've been doing it for so long, you realize that practice is cumulative, that every new piece of work is in some way related to the work and the practice that you've done, 10, 15 years ago. And one of the biggest blessings about experimental work is that you have a space where you are free to fail. And you are able to do it in a safe environment where you can look critically at what you're doing so that you can do it again and again and again. That I think is the fundamental quality of experimental work, is that you have to try new things, and you will inevitably, for every 10 things that you make, 9 will be kind of mediocre, and 1 will be genius. Yes. That's the it's not just having the freedom to fail, but it's also having the freedom to fail fast and constantly.
and to being invited back.
Yes, correct.
That tends to be the name of the game with these things. You put all these things out, and that's why they say sometimes students, to love what you do and love what you create, but not to be so attached to literally everything, because as you said, 1 out of those 10 things, 9 out of 10 of them are going to, I don't say fail, they're not going to be picked up for something, and then you have that one that does. So, but you bring up a great point because you talk about the Brooklyn Art House, and I want to talk more about that. Isaac, you're one of the co-executive directors of the new upcoming Brooklyn Art House, known better as Bob.
That's correct.
Right? I love that. Bob, exclamation point.
It's a very Dadaist way of saying it's everything and nothing at the
It's
same time.
everything and nothing at the same time. I love that. So, you talked a little bit about it, but tell us more about it. Where did the original, idea come from? And, I saw, if you go to their website, you can see the beautiful design that it's going to look like. It's incredible. Where did this originally come from, and why Williamsburg?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to discuss this
Of course.
evening, because right now we have a lot of raw space before construction begins next month or so. We have very affordable, cheap rehearsal space and shooting space up until opening. But what we were privy to, and this is no news for our community, is that we hemorrhaged so many small theaters and rehearsal studios over the pandemic years, and what a tragic loss, things that we will never get back. And so my colleague Alex Orthwine and myself began a process of discovery, looking at about 5,000 square feet in Manhattan, but mostly in Brooklyn, because that's where so much of our community lives. And it's also a lot less transient than a lot of New York. And there are spaces that are a bit larger, that are able to have a bit more versatility in this kind of an idea. So much cheaper too. You'd be surprised. Let me tell you, I'm sure people who live there will tell you the same. But
Williamsburg, yeah, especially.
but to your point though, it is a bit more space for what is people were able to sort of afford and create together. But this was an 8-month process of sort of envisioning how we can create a very equitable space in a sort of company practice of how these different streams of revenue can sort of bail each other out when needed. Because as we all know, from quarter to quarter, season to season, what's happening in the fall is very different than what's happening into the spring, the summer, and winter. And so how can we create an organization to keep our artistic community employed, to keep their work going, and to develop a much more robust residency program for individual artists and small companies? This is what we're trying to solve.
And so is that what it's going to be, more of a residency type or season type? So it's a 99-cent theater, and then obviously you have the parts. Is it going to be one of those things where, is it one week it's this show, or one night it's that show, and then the next night it's something different? Or will the space be able to be rented out, or is it going to be one of those things where, this season at the Brooklyn Art House we're going to have A, B, C, and D? What sort of is that vision?
That's a great question, and I think I would give 2 answers to that. One would be, it will in practice, be a bit of a balance between original programming that we do on a weekly basis, like a talk show perhaps, with also production companies and artists that want to claim the space. So that's the second answer that I would give is we want our artistic community to claim this space. And so while we are focusing on new and innovative work, it's really our community that's going to guide and shape the identity of what this becomes. And we trust that the need is there because we're all witnessing it firsthand, that we're looking at many tributaries contributing to one river over the coming years. So I guess how I would look at it.
And what are you finding in this whole process and experience? Because obviously it must be difficult, especially dealing with a new space and opening it and all this sort of logistics and complications and excitements that go along with it. So what have you learned in this process of opening Brooklyn Art House that has made you a better artist?
Well, I've learned a new vocabulary, that's for sure. Now when I go out, I'm looking at HVACs and ductwork and conduit and sprinkler systems in here. And that's literally the first thing I start noticing before I go like have this work out.
Sounds like everything I just learned when I got my real estate license 3 weeks
There
ago.
you go.
And everything I thought.
Congratulations.
So exciting. Yeah.
Yes. So that how it contributes to, I suppose, my artistic side is, I suppose it's not unlike how we have to sort of adapt to the site-specific spaces that Auntie and I create a lot of our work in.
Right.
And so from creating a new piece that fits the environment in which we exist has sort of inspired what this performance space will be, which is, again, a very versatile space to accommodate a lot of different kinds of things, but also we're in a wonderful place with technology where, because we're installing LED technology, a lot of rotating source floors, we're able to tech a show in a very short amount of time so that we can put it on a flash drive right now, leave, come back 5 years later, plug it in and be ready to go. The same thing with our bar and kitchen program. We're sort of finding ourselves at the crossroad of need with a really exciting place with technology as well. And so we're just really excited to be able to offer something very fresh, a very bright and positive space, but also a space where we can kind of change in our small way, again, only a 99 seat here.
Still a good size. That's why I saw it. Man, it's great. It's a good size.
Thank you, but it's still going to be something very, very different for the community, and we're very excited to give them.
And now I know you and Auntie are working, are collaborating on an exciting project, and you're going to play something shortly from it. But tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now. I know you're very excited about it, and it's such an exciting new piece, bold piece, which is what you do. So tell me a little bit about it and share it with our audience.
We'll have to tag team this together a little bit. But I guess I would sort of preface this and go back slightly to what you were talking about with need and equity. One way that we've figured out our way to sort of like fund some of the work is we're working with co-producers internationally. And so our model has been to either premiere in New York or in Europe, and then to create pieces that involve artists from different locales. So if we're focusing on a very topical issue, we want the representation to appropriately discuss and build with us what this issue is about. This one that our team is going to perform for you was originally premiered in London, and it will come to New York in January as part of the opening. And it's called Wellspring. This piece is, at its essence, a parable about oil and our consumerism, and this myth of this dark substance that comes out of the ground that we have subscribed an incredible amount of wealth, power, death, destruction to in our capture of this natural element. And so that's a really nerdy and geeky way to sort of explain a piece that is completely nonverbal. It's movement-based and music-based, and I'll sort of maybe kick it to you to sort of talk about that kind of collaboration that came about.
So we actually, this was the first time that Isaac and I had collaborated almost entirely remotely. If I recall correctly, Isaac was spending several months in Berlin, and I was living in my hometown upstate. So that was a new sort of element for us, because a lot of times the process is a lot more organic when you're in a room together, especially when you're a larger ensemble. You have to have a well-established emotional chemistry in order to work remotely. And I think actually you've covered it quite well. I think the most exciting thing for me was, the most exciting and by far the most challenging thing was that this was a 50-minute piece with no musical interruption. Playing cello, very demanding cello music for 50 minutes is an Olympic athletic task. Well, I mean, there are people who do it all the time. I mean,
It was impressive.
I mean, not to butter my own biscuit.
No, it does.
I'll do it for you.
Listen, I play no instruments, and it sounds like an Olympic test for me. I'm somebody else, so I get it is.
And so there was, so basically it follows the narrative, if you like, follows this farmer who is clearly exhausted, is starving, who dies. He's swallowed up by the earth and then sort of regurgitated back up. And he then discovers this substance that is simultaneously revolting, disgusting, and ecstatic. And when I say ecstatic, ecstasy is it's fundamentally unsustainable. You have this big peak, and then what goes up must come down. So I'm still I wasn't sure what I was going to play, but I think I'm going to play, thank you, I keep forgetting, I'm terrible at mic technique. I am going to play the part where this farmer starts delineating the crowd into tribes and painting them with this substance. It's supposed to have sort of a techno feel.
Okay. Well, you know what? You take it away. I am so excited to hear this. And as I said to Isaac, I said, this is the first time we've had any instrument other than a piano. We've had a guitar, but played at Live with Rye Friends On Broadway. So this is a real treat for all of us. So I'm so excited to hear this. I can't wait.
Thank you for trusting some devised work today.
Of course.
How does that sound?
Encore.
Oh, Klaus?
Oh, boy.
Oh, we have some
It's
stories
funny,
about
it's like,
Klaus.
I really don't like giving my instruments names because anthropomorphizing an instrument feels a little bit too separate for me. But this cello came with a name. The last person who owned it had named it Klaus. So it's kind of
I also like it. Feels like a Klaus. It feels better.
I mean, this cello is ancient. This cello, like, they don't exactly know what, but like, basically, between 1700 and like 1710, they dated it based on the purfling, which is this totally legal, not at all illegal whale ivory.
So wait, are you saying this is the 1700s?
Correct.
It's that old?
Correct. I need to get another cello.
That's
So that
amazing.
I know I love this cello,
Okay.
but I want like a burner, you know.
I mean, but I love that. Okay, so thank you for sharing something so beautiful and that such an antique of that nature here. So they've got a cello, but to let alone have something from 1700, the 1700s here. I mean, that's amazing.
Now gracing the 59th Street stage.
Yeah, now gracing the-
Honestly, not the weirdest venue I've played.
Here at the Turnstyle Underground Market, the Columbus Circle, the subway station. That is amazing. I mean, wow, that is just beautiful. And it's in such good condition. So how the piece that you just played from, how long is the piece and where do we hope to premiere it? Is it going to be at the Brooklyn Art House once it opens? And how did you know, what is your role in it as one of the collaborators, Isaac?
I think overall what we're excited to be able to offer and begin to more and more establish for the Brooklyn Art House is a definition of what innovation means. This is one of these like blanket words that just sort of, it's like the word interesting, that it means absolutely nothing at this
wide adjective.
But what we're interested in playing with is form and the relationship between our performers and the audience, and to be able to create much more of a holy environment. To take a few pages out of Peter Brook's The Empty Space, into a great extent, Stanowski and Grotowski as well, to be able to. These are very important theater practitioners and directors whose entire careers were about how we reach out and create this intimate relationship with our audiences. I suppose the way that Auntie and I and many of our collaborators work is these things breathe together. The union between breath, sound, and movement is our way of playing with form and innovation. And so this space will do something very similar to that. And so I wanted to very purposefully sit next to Auntie to be able to sort of feel this with him. But I suppose it's form in our relationship to our audience is what we're interested in exploring.
Yes, I love that. And yes, I was going to say too, listen, it's just always one big fun here at Rye, Live with Rye Friends. I'm also on another side as well. I'm sure you all noticed that. I started over here, and there's a reason for that. I can just explain why. That's so exciting. I think it's so incredible what you're doing, and we need more people like both of you in this industry, supporting and creating and making new work, new art, uplifting voices, supporting art in all forms. Because art does come in all forms. It's not just singing and acting. It's it's instruments, it's everything. It's experimental. And so, what pieces of work speak to you specifically? Is there a piece of work that, in your time, be it in any form in the artistic sense, that speaks to you specifically? And if so, why? Isaac, we'll start with you. Not to put you on the spot.
No, I'm happy to.
Auntie made such a face that I figured he needed a second or two. They needed a second to look at the time. That side was like, I couldn't start anything, but I didn't want to be cool. So,
well,
not that 2 hours needed. I don't know.
I appreciate it. No. I can point to one thing to unify a lot of our different vantage points tonight, what we've talked about, but also from the three of us and what our backgrounds are and our knowledge of New York City and what goes on in these stages. I would point to one thing that was in the city, either season 2017 or 2018. It was called The Encounter, and it was created by one of my heroes. His name is Simon McBurney, and he has a production company called Theater Complicité, and it is one of the most inspirational, galvanizing, beautiful, poetic, necessary companies producing art in the world. And this piece is a one-man show that was on a Broadway stage, and it's very rare to get something like that. It started, I don't know where it started, but I saw it at the Barbican in London before it transferred to New York. And it is based on the experience of a man going into the jungle and experiencing a tribe that has never been contacted before. And Simon McBurney had this bust of a head crafted with about maybe a dozen or more microphones around the head. And this man's background is clown. And this piece is full of aural illusion. So the entire audience in a Broadway space is given their own set of headphones. And it is this aural experience, 50% of which I had my eyes closed for, where he is going through this narrative of exploring the other and finding something that's so radically different from him. And the experience of just sitting in this space and truly being shocked by something that I legit hear that's behind me because the sound design was so incredible. But the power behind one artist to just capture the imagination, the heart, and emotion of 2,000 people in this space is a perfect example of why I strive to do what I do. And so The Encounter by Simon McBurney and Theater Complicité, there are parts of it that are available online, but truly an inspirational piece between London, New York, and virtually, I suppose, as well.
Love that. Oh boy, it's my turn now.
Yes.
I actually, I think another thing that I really need to remind myself of being really entrenched in the world of classical music. Classical music has a history of being intensely exclusive and very uppity, sort of, and potentially pretentious. And I think that's why a lot of the work that speaks most to me is very queer. And it would be considered on the fringe of culture. Like I grew up loving John Waters films, but now I think specifically like drag queens and kings. There's actually a good friend who's a fabulous Canadian composer named Kim Michelle. She has this drag king personality called King of Chlorophyll, where she does immersive things in trees themselves, and like. It's kind of hard to like, it's, the boundaries of drag are so wide, but like, to be able to push them like that is a radical act of drag. That's inspiring to me. That's actually, I don't think I could, I mean.
That's inspiring.
And also funny enough, like, so there was an instance of a piece, like we talk about immersive theater a lot, and we're always looking for ways of making new strides into getting like audience members immersed in theater. The only time I have ever experienced the theater using smell was a show that I didn't particularly love, but it was an adaptation of Rumpelstiltskin, and they had covered the entire stage in mulch. And you walked in and it smelled like soil, that sort of
yes.
And it was one of the most remarkable things I've ever experienced. So that's another good example.
I love that. What two great examples. That is incredible. See, it's the power of art and the power of that it'll do and create for each of us. It's so exciting. I could talk to both of you all day. This has just been so exciting, so informative. But before we wrap here, Isaac, is there anything that I didn't get to touch on before we depart that you want to share with our audience, whether it's what you're working on or it's more with the Brooklyn Art House, anything in particular?
Well, I might sort of generally say thank you for also featuring members of the community here who are doing very alternative things. that I always want to see more on Broadway, but don't get enough of. So thank you for inviting people like us to be able to also have a voice here with you.
It's my pleasure.
And I would just encourage people to have on their radar, there are some amazing pieces coming up at BAM. Specifically, there's an F.C. Bergman piece coming up that everyone needs to drop everything and go and see. Amal is touring New York City right now, co-sponsored by St. Anne's Warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
You must catch her as she's walking around the city right now.
Oh, yes, yeah, I just learned about her yesterday. Somebody posted about it, and I wondered who this tall doll was, and I'm saying Lola Mall, and obviously the beauty of the internet, because I found out for the first time, I had no idea who she was, so, yeah.
So there are these hubs that are producing, some really exciting, topical, innovative work. And in our more grassroots, hungry, fervent, young way, full of real innovators who are not at a level that are working on multi-million-dollar pieces like this, we are really excited to share with our community together what Brooklyn Art House will become.
Well, I cannot wait to see what it'll become. I mean, it's got so much potential, and there's so much it's going to become, and I'm just excited to see what comes of it and what comes with it for sure. I'm really excited. Auntie, and for you, is there anything that I didn't touch on or that you could talk about before we depart and before everyone shares our socials and websites?
Well, so separate from our company, I actually just started a collaboration with this fabulous violinist and artistic director of Sanctuary, which is a space in the Box Factory in Ridgewood. It's called Mini Masterworks. We've done arrangements of Brahms violin and cello concerto and the Mendelssohn violin concerto, and I'm playing a very fiery Vivaldi. But we're taking pieces that were originally for full orchestra, and I arranged it for string quartet, woodwind doubler, and horn. And we're trying, basically like I was talking about, how classical music has this history of being very kind of uppity. And we want to bring it back. We want to make it a little less formal and very more, inclusive. And so we're doing this season of small performances in living rooms. Yeah, and actually our last performance is going to be in a weed dispensary. So it can't get any more casual.
That's going to be an after party.
I know,
Can't wait.
But it premieres this Saturday. This Saturday's concert actually is the only event with a live stream option, and if you buy that ticket, you can watch the live stream whenever you want in perpetuity. And that is available on my website.
And exciting. And what is your website for those at home, which you'll see on the screen?
AuntieMiller.com. ANTIMEMILLER.com.
Amazing, amazing. And do you have social medias as well?
I do. Available on my website is the full version of the piece that I play, the abridged version just for solo cello. But my Instagram is Auntie Miller Music.
Auntie Miller Music, I love that, amazing. And Isaac, where can we keep up with you? What is your socials and websites?
I'll maybe pass on the card to put up on your screen as well. But
We have it here, we already have it on the screen, yes.
It's isaac-bush.com or bkarthouse.com, and Instagram is @IamBush, which I might consider changing.
I noticed that name. I was like, it's very unique.
Well, I get one of two things when traveling. I'll either get, Bush, for those who remember the presidential Bush years.
Yes.
Or I'll get, Mr. Bush, right this way, of course, please, right here, front row.
You've got both of those things. You have.
Oh, yes, still.
Depending on where in the country you
And
are.
apparently on Instagram, I own it, so
I love that.
it is what it is. Every end of the day, we're all just.
Yeah.
What do you say, Auntie?
Amazing.
We all try, but in the end.
Oh, no. In the words of my favorite comedian, Maria Bamford, we're all just trying our best, but sometimes it's just not that good.
So, there.
Hey, that's great.
That's a good way to end, actually.
It is. And if you want to continue to keep up with me, you can follow me at Rye_Myers on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and on YouTube, Rye Myers. And again, please get your tickets for the 1-year special anniversary show, Live with Rye Friends on Broadway, live at the Triad Theater, Monday, September 26th. You'll hear that fabulous theme song, which will actually be edited. There will be a new line in there, which is very exciting. It'll be updated. But September 26th at 9:30 p.m. at the Triad Theater on the Upper West Side. Get your tickets now by going to ryemyers.com/anniversary show, or if you're watching at home, there's a QR code up on the screen, which you can scan, and it'll take you to get either the live stream or the in-person. If you're in the area, please come to the in-person. It's going to be one of the best nights of your life. It's going to be one of the best nights of my life this past year. Come out, support live theater, live performance. I have some of the best Broadway names there this time around. As I said, we have Donnie Kerr and Rob Evan, who will be performing for the first time in quite some time. And also with Rob Evan, if you remember Rocktopia from 2018 on Broadway, he's one of the co-creators and co-producers of that. So the rock essence is really entwined in that. And I also forgot to mention too that with this show, a portion of the proceeds is benefiting the PATH Fund, which is exciting. The PATH Fund stands for Performing Artists That Help, and that was founded by Donnie Kerr. Correct, he's the founder, Michael, right? And that's also who does Rockers on Broadway. And Donnie Kerr and Rob are part of Rockers on Broadway. And another great thing is that Josh and Avery are a small part of the Rockers family as well. So it's going to be a great night, and they're also going to be talking about, and because that week as well, this October 3rd is She Rocks, benefiting Diane Warren. So it's a big, big night, a big week. It's not only celebrating me, but we're celebrating the PATH Fund, and Donnie is a friend of the show. So it's going to be great. Again, go get your tickets, ryemyers.com/anniversary show, scan the QR code. Thank you for your support. Have a great week, and I'll see you all, not next week because of Broadway Flea Market, but at my show. So get your tickets now before it's too late. Thank you all. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.